Have you ever wondered if something as simple as salt could hold the power to transform your spiritual life? It might sound counterintuitive, even a bit controversial, but what if I told you that this humble mineral, found in every kitchen, has been a hidden weapon in spiritual warfare for centuries? The Bible is filled with profound truths, and one of its most overlooked yet powerful elements is salt. It's not just a seasoning, it's a symbol of covenant, purification, and divine authority. But why has this knowledge been so hidden from us? And more importantly, how can you unlock the spiritual potential of salt in your own life? In this video, we'll dive deep into the scriptures, uncovering the mystical significance of salt and revealing how it can be a potent tool in your spiritual arsenal. Prepare to be surprised, challenged, and ultimately empowered as we explore the hidden truth of salt in the Bible. Salt's power extends far beyond what many might imagine. Since biblical times, it has been used as a potent symbol in spiritual battles. It's not just a common seasoning, but a spiritual weapon that can break curses and bring blessings. Picture yourself facing a challenging situation, surrounded by problems that seem unsolvable. When used with faith, salt can be the key to unlocking doors that were once sealed. It's a true ally in spiritual warfare, capable of transforming realities. To grasp the importance of salt, we need to look back at how it was used across different cultures and religions. In the Bible, it's mentioned in various contexts, always carrying a profound meaning. Salt was used not only to preserve food, but also to seal covenants and protect against evil forces. Imagine that. Something so simple, yet with such a significant impact. This shows how God can use small things to accomplish great works. Now, you might be wondering, how can you incorporate salt into your spiritual life? The answer is simpler than it seems. In moments of conflict, or when you sense something is off, you can use salt in specific prayers, asking God to purify and protect your environment. Just as salt purifies and preserves, it can cleanse your spiritual life, driving away anything negative. And remember, it's not the salt itself, but the faith you place in its use. Many have shared incredible experiences using salt in their spiritual practices. A classic example is a woman who, feeling a negative presence in her home, used salt and prayers to expel that energy. The result? A peace she hadn't felt in years. This is just one of many testimonies that highlight the transformative power of this element. So, are you ready to experience this spiritual force in your life? However, it's important to remember that salt isn't a magic solution, but a tool that, when used with faith and wisdom, can bring great benefits. Like any spiritual practice, using salt should be done with respect and understanding. Simply sprinkling salt everywhere won't bring miracles. The key lies in the intention and connection with God when using it. In this way, salt becomes no extension of your spiritual power. And so, by understanding salt as a spiritual weapon, you begin to see the world through new eyes. You realize there's more to life than what meets the eye, and even the simplest elements can have a powerful impact on your spiritual journey. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Delving deeper, we discover that salt carries an even stronger symbolism in its covenant with God. Throughout the Bible, salt is consistently portrayed as more than just a culinary necessity. It's a symbol loaded with spiritual significance. From ancient times, salt was revered for its preserving qualities, and this reverence is mirrored in Scripture. The Bible refers to salt in various contexts, highlighting its role in preserving food, symbolizing covenants, and even serving as a tool for justice by God. For instance, in Leviticus 2 verse 13, it's mentioned that every grain offering should be seasoned with salt, symbolizing the everlasting covenant between God and his people. One of the most intriguing uses of salt in the Bible is its association with covenants. The phrase, covenant of salt, appears in passages like 2 Chronicles 13 verse 5, emphasizing the perpetual and unbreakable nature of God's promises. Salt, in this context, represents durability and loyalty, reflecting the eternal bond between the divine and humanity. Imagine how powerful this symbolism is. Something as simple as salt being a reminder of God's unwavering commitment to us. Salt's role isn't limited to positive symbolism. It's also used as a tool of judgment. In the story of Lot's wife, found in Genesis 19 verse 26, she becomes a pillar of salt for looking back at the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, defying God's command. This transformation serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of disobedience. It's a powerful image. Salt, which preserves, also marks the result of not adhering to divine instruction. In another instance, Elisha purifies a water source in 2 Kings 2 verse 21 by casting salt into it, declaring that the Lord has healed the waters. This act shows how salt, under God's command, becomes an agent of purification and healing. It's not merely the salt, but the divine power working through it, that brings about change. This story highlights the multifaceted role salt plays in the Bible, not just as a physical substance, but as a spiritual tool that, when used under God's direction, can bring about profound transformation. Salt is also mentioned by Jesus in the New Testament, where he refers to his followers as the salt of the earth in Matthew 5 verse 13. This metaphor illustrates the role of Christians in the world, to preserve goodness and righteousness in a decaying society. It's a call to action, urging believers to maintain their faith and influence, much like salt preserves food. The idea is clear. Just as salt is essential in maintaining the quality of food, believers are essential in upholding the moral fabric of society. The presence of salt in these biblical references is more than coincidental. It's a thread that weaves through the Scripture, connecting various themes of preservation, covenant, and judgment. As you delve into these passages, you begin to see how this simple mineral carries profound spiritual implications, pointing to the deeper truths of God's relationship with humanity and his expectations of us. But this is only the beginning. The discussion of salt as a spiritual weapon takes us into the realm of spiritual warfare. In the realm of spiritual warfare, salt is not just a physical substance but a potent spiritual weapon. Its uses go far beyond seasoning food. It has the power to purify, preserve, and even curse, depending on its application and God's will. Imagine facing a spiritual battle where negativity and evil seem to surround you. Salt, used with prayer and intention, can become a shield, protecting you from harm. It's a reminder that the simplest things, when blessed by God, can become powerful tools in the fight against darkness. Salt's purifying qualities make it a valuable ally in spiritual warfare. In many traditions, salt is used to cleanse spaces of negative energy, ensuring that no harmful spirits can dwell there. For example, some people sprinkle salt around their homes, believing it creates a protective barrier against evil forces. This practice is rooted in the belief that salt, much like it purifies and preserves in the physical world, can also cleanse and protect in the spiritual realm. It's a simple yet profound way to fortify one's environment against spiritual attacks. Beyond purification, salt is also seen as a preserver of what is good and holy. In spiritual warfare, this means that salt can help preserve one's faith and integrity in the face of adversity. Just as it preserves food from decay, salt can be used to safeguard one's spiritual life from corruption and moral decay. Imagine using salt in your prayers, asking God to preserve your heart and mind, keeping you steadfast in your faith despite the challenges you face. It's a small act with a potentially huge impact on your spiritual well-being. However, salt's role in spiritual warfare isn't limited to protection and preservation. It can also be used to curse and destroy evil, much like how God used it to curse the land of Sodom and Gomorrah. When used with righteous intent, salt can symbolically destroy the works of evil in one's life. Some spiritual warriors may sprinkle salt in places they believe to be tainted by evil, asking God to cleanse and reclaim that space. This act of faith is a powerful declaration that darkness has no place where God's presence is invoked. Moreover, salt's power in spiritual warfare is deeply connected to its symbolism in the Bible. Jesus called his followers the salt of the earth, a phrase that underscores the responsibility of believers to act as a preserving force in the world. In spiritual warfare, this means standing firm against evil, maintaining one's moral and spiritual integrity, and using every tool at one's disposal, salt included, to combat the forces that seek to corrupt and destroy. It's a call to action, reminding believers that they are equipped with everything they need to fight. And once you delve deeper into the concept of salt as a spiritual weapon, you begin to see how this humble substance plays a critical role in the fight against evil. It's more than just a physical element. It's a symbol of God's power working through His people. But this understanding leads us to a deeper exploration of the covenant of salt, a divine agreement that further elevates the importance of salt in our spiritual lives. The covenant of salt is one of the most fascinating and profound symbols found in the Bible. It represents a perpetual agreement between God and His people, one that signifies loyalty, permanence, and an unbreakable bond. Imagine a covenant so strong that it's likened to the lasting quality of salt, something that doesn't decay or lose its value over time. This covenant, mentioned in scriptures like Numbers 18:19 and 2 Chronicles 13 verse 5, emphasizes the enduring nature of God's promises and His unwavering commitment to those who follow Him. In ancient times, salt was a valuable commodity, often used to seal agreements and signify the sincerity and durability of a pact. The covenant of salt, therefore, isn't just a metaphorical expression. It's a reflection of the cultural and spiritual importance of salt in maintaining relationships. When God established a covenant of salt with His people, He was making a promise that would last forever, one that couldn't be broken, much like the enduring nature of salt itself. This is a powerful reminder of God's eternal faithfulness and the security that comes from being in covenant with Him. Understanding the covenant of salt also means recognizing its implications for our spiritual lives today. It's a call to loyalty and faithfulness, mirroring the commitment God has made to us. When we think about our own commitments, whether in our relationship with God or with others, we can take inspiration from the covenant of salt. Just as salt preserves and sustains, so too should our promises and relationships be maintained with integrity and care. This covenant encourages us to be steadfast in our faith, knowing that God's promises are as enduring as the salt that symbolizes them. In practical terms, the covenant of salt can serve as a reminder in our daily lives to remain true to our commitments, both spiritual and personal. For instance, when we face challenges or temptations, recalling the covenant of salt can inspire us to stay faithful and strong, just as God remains faithful to us. It's a symbol that can be integrated into our spiritual practices, perhaps even using salt in prayers or rituals as a tangible reminder of God's everlasting covenant with us. This act can deepen our connection to God and reinforce the strength of our commitment to Him. The covenant of salt also underscores the importance of trust in our relationship with God. Just as salt was trusted to preserve and protect, so too can we trust in God's promises and His power to sustain us. This covenant reassures us that no matter what challenges we face, God's commitment to us is unbreakable, and His support is unwavering. It's a powerful affirmation that, just like salt preserves what is valuable, God preserves and protects those who are faithful to Him. As we continue to explore the significance of salt in the Bible, it's clear that its role extends far beyond the physical. The covenant of salt is a divine promise, a sacred bond that highlights God's eternal loyalty and love for His people. But the story doesn't end here. The practical applications and testimonies of using salt in spiritual practices reveal even more about its power and importance. In the realm of spiritual practices, the use of salt has a long history filled with powerful testimonies and time-honored traditions. Many people have shared their experiences of using salt in prayer, describing how it has brought about profound changes in their lives. Imagine hearing a story of someone who, after feeling spiritually oppressed, used salt in a simple prayer and experienced an immediate sense of relief and peace. These testimonies are not just anecdotes. They reflect the deep spiritual significance that salt holds across cultures and religions. One common practice is sprinkling salt around the home as a form of spiritual protection. This isn't just a ritualistic act, but a way of inviting God's presence into every corner of one's living space. People often report feeling a renewed sense of safety and calm after performing this practice, as if the very atmosphere has been cleansed. It's a simple yet powerful way to create a sacred space, free from negative influences. If you ever feel uneasy in your surroundings, consider this practice. It's a tangible way to reinforce your spiritual armor. Another testimony comes from those who use salt in prayer to break curses or remove obstacles in their lives. For example, some have shared how they placed a small amount of salt in the four corners of a room while praying for protection or breakthrough in a particular situation. The results? Stories of unexpected blessings, breakthroughs in areas that seemed impossible, and a sense of liberation from spiritual bondage. It's a practice that connects the physical with the spiritual, showing how something as simple as salt can be a conduit for God's power. The use of salt in spiritual practices isn't just about protection or purification, it's also about preservation. Some people use salt in their prayers to preserve their faith, relationships, or even their health. For instance, someone might dissolve salt in water and use it in a blessing ritual, asking God to preserve their family from harm and keep their bonds strong. These practices are deeply rooted in the belief that just as salt preserves food from decay, it can also preserve what is valuable in our spiritual lives. It's a beautiful way to express faith in God's ability to sustain and protect what we hold dear. Moreover, these practices often involve sharing testimonies with others, creating a sense of community and shared spiritual experience. Hearing how others have used salt in their prayers and witnessing the results can inspire and strengthen one's own faith. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our spiritual journeys, and that the tools God provides, like salt, are available to all who believe. If you've never tried using salt in your spiritual practices, these testimonies might encourage you to explore its potential in your own life. As you reflect on these stories and practices, it becomes clear that salt is much more than a physical substance. It's a powerful spiritual tool that, when used with faith, can bring about real and lasting change. But the exploration of salt's significance in the Bible and spiritual warfare has revealed only part of its potential. Now, we're invited to apply this knowledge in our own lives and discover the impact it can have. As we come to the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect on everything you've learned. Salt, something so ordinary, so easily overlooked, holds incredible spiritual power. Throughout the Bible, it's been used as a symbol of covenant, purification, and divine authority. But the real question is, how will you apply this knowledge? It's one thing to understand the significance of salt, but it's another to actively use it in your spiritual life. Imagine for a moment what could change in your life if you began to see salt not just as a seasoning, but as a spiritual tool. Picture yourself using it in your prayers, as a way to cleanse your home of negative energy, or to seal your covenant with God in times of need. These are more than just symbolic acts. They're powerful expressions of faith that can bring real transformation. Have you ever thought about how a small act of faith, like using salt in your spiritual practices, could lead to big breakthroughs? Whether it's protection, purification, or preservation, salt has been a divine instrument throughout history. And now, it's your turn to harness its power. But beyond the practical applications, consider what this understanding reveals about God's nature and His relationship with us. He takes the simplest elements, like salt, and imbues them with profound meaning and power. This is the God we serve, a God who is deeply involved in the details of our lives, who offers us tools to fight our battles and strengthen our faith. Don't let this revelation stay in the realm of theory. Step out in faith and put it into practice. Start with a small prayer, perhaps asking God to purify your heart and home, and see how He moves. As you ponder these things, ask yourself, has this message touched your heart? Do you feel a stirring, a call to deepen your relationship with God? If so, don't hesitate. Now is the time to act. If this teaching resonated with you, I encourage you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on more insights like these. And if you're feeling a deeper call, a desire to accept Jesus and commit your life to Him, know that He is ready and waiting for you. His love for you is infinite, and His plans for your life are greater than you can imagine. Before you go, let me leave you with something more to ponder. If you found this discussion on the power of salt enlightening, I believe you'll also be captivated by the next video I recommend: why Jesus had to meet Moses and Elijah at the Mount of Transfiguration. This story is filled with mystery and revelation, offering even more insights into the wonders of the Bible. Just click the card on the screen and dive deeper into the Word of God. May God bless you richly, fill your heart with His peace, and guide you in all your ways. Until we meet again in the next video, stay strong in your faith and remember, you are never alone.